Well, our top story today from the GatewayPundit.com, developing, the FBI arrests the driver who went viral for delivering Bionic shield face masks to LA rioters in the early morning sting, showing that there was probably collusion and something more to the story that they originally were not telling you. We're covering this and so much more here on the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and we have a developing story coming to you about who's actually funding these riots. It's a good question, and we begin to answer that by taking a look at a developing story by Jim Hoft, where the FBI actually arrested a driver who went viral for delivering Bionic shield face masks to LA rioters in the early morning sting. Well, it's not illegal to deliver actual, face masks. The problem is, why did they arrest him? Well, we'll find out. The FBI arrested the man who went viral last week for distributing what appeared to be military-grade Bionic shield face masks to violent demonstrators in downtown Los Angeles. Alejandro Theodore Orellana was arrested this morning by the FBI on allegation of conspiracy to commit civil disorder for distributing face shields to suspected rioters on Tuesday. They're moving quickly to identify and arrest those involved in ongoing and or supporting civil disorder in Los Angeles. U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Easley, said in a statement. He also went on to say that the suspect had been identified as Alejandro Orellana, if that's how you pronounce it in Spanish, an alleged member of the Brown Berets. Mentioned them a few times on my other show. You have the Brown Berets, the Lawyers Guild, right? You have a few different groups in L.A. The Brown Berets are pretty common, right? They're a Chicano gang. They're a mecha, they're raza, as we call them, But they're pretty radical. They're in Dallas, too. They're in a lot of the Southwest. You'll see Brown Berets pretty much everywhere, but they call it a radical Chicano nationalist paramilitary organization with ties to the far-left revolutionary groups. They are a communist group, from my understanding, and they are violent, and they're willing to use violence. I was assaulted by a Brown Beret back in 2018. They had threatened to kill me. They had given my location in East Los Angeles and had alerted their fellow gang members to assault me. I had to be evacuated by the police. And the group, long known for its anti-police rhetoric and militant activism, has reportedly embedded operatives in several major U.S. cities. It goes on to exclaim that a local reporter, Alex Michelson of Fox LA, captured the moment protesters swarmed the truck to grab the gear, noting it certainly seems like gear you'd wear if you're preparing for conflict with police. Who is funding this? Well, footage from June 9th showed Alejandro Theodore Orellana arriving in downtown LA with loads of Bionic face shields, high-impact gear that some experts say mirrors riot control equipment used by law enforcement and military. You can buy this stuff maybe from Home Depot, some people are saying. You can also get it from the Walmart website. So it's not exactly that hard to get a hold of. But that being said, here's a picture of him being arrested. You can see the original footage of the man passing out the face shields. Watch.
Describe where it just feels like something's going to happen and you're waiting for it to happen. And you can look around, you see the National Guard in front of the federal building, but as far as this intersection where we're seeing all this take place, there's no local police to be seen. Yeah. And we have people handing out masks and gas masks, and we just saw people graffitiing the sidewalk right in front of this truck, and we've seen people doing burnouts in the street. There's no local law enforcement around.
Let us clarify, because
So, unlike the law enforcement in Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass has obviously caused a lot of restrictions and what's called passive policing. Now, the fact this man got arrested, obviously, you see here, check this out. Alex Jones had posted this. The man seen distributing tens of thousands of dollars worth of face shields in Los Angeles to rioters has been identified as Alejandro Orellana, a now known member of the Brown Berets, a radical Latino paramilitary group that are currently embedded in cities across the United States promoting a communist takeover. He does seem a little bit young. I don't recognize him directly from my time working and embedding with extremist groups back in Los Angeles during the first Trump administration. But I can tell you, they're usually a lot shorter and fatter than this guy. So that's kind of interesting, right? This is a little bit like the whites have the John Brown Gun Club in Seattle. This is the Chicanos version. So take with it what you want. But Viva la Mexico! La raza, la raza, la raza! Ay, 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 ay! That's what they say. And then they have usually girlfriends who make mean tacos. Anyway, Alex Michelson also brought up a picture of what he called the Bionic face shield, what he said that he saw them passing out. They were the Uvex Bionic face shield, full frame designed to protect the head and neck from chemical splashes and flying debris. They're recommended for machinists and auto body shops. Lightweight. They are ratcheting headgear, anti-fog, anti-scratch, polycarbonate face shield, contoured shape, provides excellent visibility, ultra clear lens, and 99.9% UV protection. When you're trying to kill police officers, it's a good thing that you're also protecting your face from harmful UV radiation. Am I right?
No, it's crazy. I guess that protection from the sun is something that's very important when causing riots, burning down streets, lighting the cars on fire. And it's just crazy because we have a lot of these organizations. I know you mentioned the Green Hats are there. That's the Lawyers Guild that's kind of going around and trying to protect the protesters and finding ways to push back against the police. And then you have people that are like the Brown Berets, who is a horrible organization. I mean, they've been going around inciting all across the United States. So it's just sad to see. There's definitely organizations that are pushing these people. There's organizations that are fueling this, and it does need to come to an end. And I hope that we do get to the bottom of it and find out exactly who's involved.
That's true. And guys, we can't surrender. Check what I got here. These are the Trump Never Surrender gold sneakers. Brand new too, by the way. I got a new pair for myself. They are patriotic statement with a gold finish, red, white, and blue accents. They're comfortable, durable, and lightweight, and they're perfect for daily wear and sparking conversations. Now, these Never Surrender slogan inspires resilience, making them ideal for Trump supporters or bold style lovers. Limited to 1,000 pairs, they're exclusive and they're collectible. Grab yours today, just like I grabbed mine. You know, these shoes will just let them grab you where you want. You know, you just go in. Great shoes. It's a very much Trumpy-esque quote there. Very inappropriate, but also a little bit funny. That's first administration humor. Grab yours. By the laces at the MAGAoffers.com/GP. That's THEMAGAOFFERS.com/GP. You can get 15% off using our Pundit link. Act fast, they're selling out. Links on the screen and the description. These are great for children. Also, Father's Day's around the corner.
Yep.
You know, so make sure you get one of these for your guy if he's a sneakerhead or if he's just a Trump fan. Again, even if you don't want to wear them, they're collectible and they make like a. I got these actually because I already have Trump sneakers. So the reason why I got these ones is to build into my set. We're building a new show in DC, and I wanted to put these on set. So I thought they were very cool. They're collectible. I would get a pair while you still can at the MAGAoffers.com/GP. Now, a little update. Check this out. Kim Kardashian's back in the news. She's urging people to speak up against inhumane mass deportations. The DHS has issued a brutal response, Ben Q reports. Anyway, what's bigger, her lips or her butt? I don't know. Kim Kardashian has once again reminded the world of her political allegiances by issuing a scathing attack on President Trump's deportation efforts. Posting on Instagram, where she boasts over 365 million followers, Kardashian suggested that ICE agents lack humanity because of their efforts to enforce immigration law. Quote, saying, "When we were told that ICE exists to keep our country safe and remove violent criminals, great, but when we witness innocent, hardworking people being ripped from their families in inhumane ways, we always have to speak up. We have to do what's right," she wrote on Instagram. Growing up in LA, I've seen how deeply immigrants are woven into the fabric of this city, she continued. They clean my toilets. They trim my hedges. And I'm talking about the ones outside my house and the ones inside the house, if you know what I mean. I love my slave labor, she stated. As a billionaire, it's nice that I can make so much money. My butt grows bigger every year thanks to all the money I save by using a slave class of short brown people from south of the border. It's not what she said. That's pretty much Hennessy, that is what she's implying here, though.
Yeah, I mean, we heard that from actually a few of the politicians. We had the one come out and say, who's going to wipe our butts? We had another that said, who's going to pick the cotton? And frankly, I'm just tired of these celebrities coming on here. They live a special life where they're shielded from a lot of the crime that we have to deal with as far as the illegal immigration, our streets not being safe. So it's kind of like they live in their ivory tower and then want to talk down to us. And I think a lot of people in the country are fed up with that. I see a lot of rejecting of these celebrities coming out and trying to reprimand us or tell us what's right for us while they can just live in their, special little box and think that they're safe. So,
yeah. Kim Kardashian is one to know, but I'll say this. Interestingly enough, she also had a response given to her by Tricia McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security, who sort of struck back and said this: Kim Kardashian, which one of these convicted child molesters, murderers, drug traffickers, and rapists would you like to stay in the country or in the county? She said. These are just a few of the convicted illegal criminals who have been picked up in the last 72 hours. You know, physiognomy definitely doesn't lie. You got Eswin Urel Castro. He's a child molester, and he's been armed with a weapon. Very, very interesting. Gerardo Antonio Palacios is a murderer, homicide and burglary. Antonio Binets Ugarte, drug trafficker. And you have Mab Kleb. That's a very, very unfortunate name. Man, he's had lewd action with a child. Yeah, we should kill these people. I'm just going to say that, we should kill people that are abusing children. I love my kids. I do nice things for them. Hennessy over here just also purchased my son some pretty cool Sesame Street shoes.
Yep.
These are all approved options of ways you can treat children, right? But I would say once you're involved in any lewd activity with children, you should be shot. Yeah?
Yeah, no, I think that's the one thing we're supposed to do the most is protect women and children. Children have so much innocence to them, and we're the ones that are supposed to be stepping forward, making sure that they're taken care of all times. But unfortunately, these celebrities, they don't care about that. They care about either their social image or, whatever they're saying amongst in their groups. Personally, I would like to see all the ICE agents get a pair of those MAGA shoes. I would love to see them just go around and round up all these illegals wearing them. I think that'd be a great statement.
Yeah, I do too. I think we should give ICE the MAGA shoes. That being said, Colin Linebarger has a new report out that President Trump responds after Big Beautiful Bill holdout Senator Rand Paul claims that he was disinvited from the White House picnic out of petty vindictiveness. We have the video here. I got to say this. Look, I like Rand Paul, and he follows me on X for very many years, particularly when he was attacked by crazy mob of far leftists in D.C., and I defended him, saying, hey, we've been trying to get the United States Congress to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization back in the day, and I do believe that I helped with that. I did lobby that for a while. But, he's had his little riffraff about this bill, and he doesn't believe that the spending is necessary. However, Cernovich has pointed out some contradictions because he spent a lot of money in his travels, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time on hotels, which after recently staying at the Boca Raton, I can find out quickly that $100,000 would get you a nice week at Four Seasons or something like that. I mean, these places were crazy. By the way, I saw my bill from that hotel, guys. You should check the prices of a resort before you go. Very, very smart thing to do. I didn't. And apparently, I was living like people in the government. Now, he says he was disinvited. Here's his press conference. I'm just going to say this, though. With all that being said, my biggest criticism is that as a male, never get on camera to complain about not being invited to a picnic. Not exactly a very impressive display of masculinity. Check this out.
It's kind of a great time of the year in the summer. My family comes up. My son and daughter-in-law and grandson are coming up because we were going to the White House picnic, but I've just been told that I've been uninvited from the picnic. I think I'm the first senator in the history of the United States to be uninvited to the White House picnic. The White House is owned by the taxpayers. We all are members of it. Every Democrat will be invited. Every Republican will be invited, but I will be the only one disallowed to come on the grounds of the White House. I just find this incredibly petty. I mean, I have been, I think, nothing but polite to the president. I have been an intellectual opponent, a public policy opponent, and he's chosen now to uninvite me from the picnic and to say my grandson can't come to the picnic. I just the level of immaturity is beyond words. I've been here long enough that if anybody has ever followed me, I've been a critic of Obama, I've been a critic of Biden, I've been a critic of the previous Trump, but always in
Senator, thank you for that. I really appreciate your lack of invitation and your decorum for at least talking about it in a very civil way. Now, that being said, it is interesting because President Trump responded to Senator Rand Paul throwing a fit about supposedly being disinvited from the White House possibly due to his opposition to the president's big, beautiful bill. Well, Paul went on to call the move petty vindictiveness. And I guess, let me see if I can go down here. Where is, so there it is. Trump fired back at Paul a short time ago. He not only made clear that Paul and his family were welcome at the picnic, but that having Paul there would give him more time to convince the Kentucky senator to drop his opposition to the legislation. Trump took a little jab at Paul, calling him the toughest vote in the history of the U.S. Senate. Of course, Senator Rand Paul and his beautiful wife and family are invited to the big White House party tonight. Trump wrote on Truth Social, he's the toughest vote in the history of the U.S. Senate. But why wouldn't he be? Besides, it gives me more time to get his vote on the great, big, beautiful bill, one of the greatest and most important pieces of legislation ever put before our senators and congressmen and women. It'll help to make America great again. I look forward to seeing this, Rand. The party will be great. It feels like we're in Hunger Games. It really does. You know, I have this mentality. I'm trying to like brace myself for things to get really bad for my family. You know, when I see things like this, I feel like something bad is going to happen. Do anyone feel like that, especially men watching this for your family? Because women, you always feel like something bad's happening. And that's not even sexist. It's just true. Women's natures are always afraid, right? They're fearful and they're looking for protection. But men are required to give the protection and to do the provision, right? And yes, okay, cool. I'm sure you have a lot of bad girls in here who are you're a boss girl, and yeah, all right, good for you, good for you. But talking to the men here for a moment, I cannot be the only guy who has responsibility who like, look, we're thinking about having a third kid. We're thinking about doing it. And I'm going, man, you know, I feel like at some point something's going to go really bad soon. Things are going to get really hard to make money, you know, like we're kind of building our own thing, you know, here with Gateway Pundit and with the stuff we're working on at the Rift, because I see in a couple years, you know, things really getting bad. I watched the way we were treated under Biden, where it was headed, right? With making white nationalism and white supremacy the number one enemies of the country. And then you're going, well, I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not a white nationalist. But you can be a black nationalist in our country. You can be a Mexican nationalist, right? Those are all okay. But being white, they made it a bad thing, right? Even the right bought into it. Being proud of being white become a bad thing. And that's dangerous. My children are Caucasian. You know, they have blue eyes, blonde hair, and I don't want them to be ashamed of who they are. But most importantly, you know, you may not like the ideas of white nationalism, white supremacy, and go, oh, that's not what I believe. But is that terrorism, right? Is that terrorism? I mean, even Matt Walsh, you know, blamed people who hold those views for being, you know, terrorists, essentially, back in 2019. These ideas are very dangerous, and they can seep into our ideas. And you go, well, yeah, but I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not a white nationalist. Yeah, but yes, you are, because when you see what they defined white nationalist as and white supremacist, it was basically just Republicans who cared about their children, right? You were just a mom. If you were a mom and you cared about your children, you were a domestic terrorist. Remember that with the school meetings? And, you know, they were putting Catholics, like priests, on terror watch lists for promoting heterosexuality, you know? So I watch things going in a very bad direction, and I am happy Trump is president. I think a lot of those things are at a halt, but Trump's not firing any of these people. So they're still in appointment. So I don't know about you, Hennessy, but we're bracing, right? We're kind of setting our own nest egg here up in Florida. Hopefully not permanently, but still, the ideas of what we're fighting for should be long term. But am I the only man out here that's watching this, listening to this, that feels that something bad is going to happen in our country in the next few years? Very, 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 very dark times economically ahead. I sense that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be optimistic, but I do have a lot of concerns as well. I think just not being invited to a picnic is the worst thing that could be happening. But we have seen how we are being attacked. I mean, you mentioned right there, you could be any other nationalist, but if you're a white nationalist, you're considered evil. You're considered
terrorist.
A terrorist. Yeah. You know, I mean, if you go online, you type in, Black pride is something nice that they write. Spanish pride is something nice. You write white pride, and it's like like you're the scum of the earth. And it's just sad to see that way. And we see more of it time and time again, where we're seeing even bills that are being passed where funding is only going to minorities. You know, whites are being excluded from business loans. We've even seen that in the farming industry, where they were only allowed to get funding if you were not a white person. And the continuous attack makes me worry, one, because what they are trying to dilute us. There is a replacement coming. But then also, as you mentioned, having kids and growing up in this country, you know, we don't want our kids to be in a school system where they have to feel ashamed of who they are, where they have to feel like they have to apologize for, things that they never committed. And this mentality that's taken over our nation, it's just really sickening. And I think that what we need to do is we need to start being a lot more stricter. I think we need to make sure that we are speaking up and not allowing this to continue, because eventually the plan is to just wash us away. And you're going to see that in all major Western nations.
Yeah, by the way, also, just so you know, honorable mention here, by no means are we at this network, or what I'm promoting is any sort of, white supremacy, white nationalism. We're not promoting those things. But what I am saying is that, it's got to be careful, because when Trump leaves, they're going to make it that you got to be careful of the wording here, right? They're going to say white supremacy is bad, and then you're going to go, yeah, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. We should all be liberal and all love each other. And then you're going to be like, well, I'm not a white supremacist. But then they're going to redefine white supremacy as, what if you're white and your children, you want them to have a good life? Well, then now you want your children to have a step ahead of the people around them. Well, now you're being a white supremacist, even though you're just being a good parent. And then they're going to penalize good parenting. And they're going to use these words. So be careful. Anti-Semitic, racist, white supremacist, all these dog whistles that are people universally don't like to be called, and kind of agree are sort of negative social standards or stigmas that they don't want to hold. Just a reminder that they had to find parents who cared that their kids weren't being taught about cutting their penises off as being white supremacist extremists. That's what the FBI said.
Yep.
Okay, so we're not promoting any of those ideas. I'm just telling you they're gonna come after you and your children. You got to be very prepared for that. However, I do want to remind you guys that we are witnessing a generational decline in testosterone. Okay, this is a big problem. Lifestyle choices, diet, exposure to environmental toxins, all of these things are making you feel weak. That fatigue you're feeling. You could have an infection, but how are you infected for 10 years? You feel that? How about that diminished strength, the reduced libido, the mood swings, and overall loss of vitality, keeping you from feeling like your best self? You need to take control of your vitality now with Man's Edge from Neutronics Labs, the natural solution to support healthy testosterone levels. Man's Edge is more than just a standard booster. It combines powerful ingredients like fenugreek, IGF, NO2, and more to help you feel your best. Studies show that fenugreek increases testosterone by 46%. Plus, unlike traditional powders and pills, you actually get 98% absorption with Man's Edge. This is a patented delivery system made by Americans for Americans to help you feel your best and get the full benefits from these clinically proven ingredients. Check it out today and sign up on AutoShip. That's what we do here. Buy one, get one 50% off. Save 50% on all your orders today when you use AutoShip. Reclaim your lost youth and energy. Visit the link below now or go to tboostnow.com, TBOOSTNOW.com. Use code Elijah to save an additional 10%, or you can go to ElijahIGF1.com, ELIJAH, IGF, the number 1.com. Both those links will work, but use my promo code Elijah now to save an additional 10%. On top of that, 60% off. Now, that being said, in sad news, it turns out Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner with over 200 on board crashes in a residential area after takeoff. Jim Hoff has the breaking news. A tragic accident struck the Air India flight A1171, a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner today, shortly after taking off from Ahmedabad's Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport. Interesting. En route to London Gatwick, carrying 242 people, 230 passengers, and 12 crew, the aircraft crashed into a densely populated residential area in Magani Nagar, reportedly striking a hostel building associated with BJ Medical College. With profound sorrow, I confirm that Air Flight India crashed. They don't know what happened, but I will tell you, living in India is like life on hard mode, like surviving in India. These people, it's shocking, Michael, that India has 27,000 train fatalities annually, which is absurd,
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know there's a lot of people, but that is not including suicide, by the way. This is accidents, I should say, because there are quite a bit of train deaths here on the Bright Line, here, the Tri-Rail in Florida, but the majority appear to be suicides, right? They have 27,000 reported deaths of people just getting chopped up and ran over. It seems like India, by the way, their Air Force, you know about this too? They are unable to repair their own airplanes, which they buy from foreign nations. And this is not a joke. because when they went to repair their retired fleet, I believe they're Russian MiGs, there were like several dozen bolts left over when they deconstructed the planes to clean them out. Like they don't know where they don't know how to put their planes back together, and they were falling out of the sky. This is like, you guys can look into this. They're every year they're just having like several planes crash, but like not because of like user error, which could be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It's because like the equipment fails, and their entire Air Force is like basically not usable.
Well, they should apply at Boeing. I mean, if they applied at Boeing, I think they would fit in perfectly.
True.
And
they're not black though. They're dark skinned, but not black.
Yeah. Well, you know, this plane was actually a Boeing plane as well, and Boeing's been having trouble for a long time now. We know that their DEI practices that they were pushing, just bringing people in based on skin color or ethnicity and not actually having, you know, people who were trained. There was even, I know there was one time they had an undercover person who went into a Boeing factory and would just hear from all the different workers of how the tools they were using were more improvised, how they were trying to substitute certain safety precautions by replacing them with whatever was just available. And crazy part is, too, anybody who spoke up about this mysteriously died, you know, or there was suicide the second you spoke out against Boeing. But Boeing, you know, it used to be a very reputable company. We used to look at Boeing planes and think that they were, you know, it was great the way they worked on them, how efficient they were. And that reputation's down the drain now. So to hear that this is a Boeing plane on top of it, I'm not surprised. And, you know, them not being able to build their planes, you know, I don't know if that played a part in it as far as India. But yeah, I mean, we've lost more and more faith in these major companies just because they wanted to follow, you know, these liberal agendas and destroy any kind of reputability and any kind of safety precautions they had.
To be fair, though, I don't think that this has anything to do with Boeing. It might. I think it has to do with Indians being Indian. Check this out. Listen to this. You know, having like royalty-free music is definitely. All right. I saw a man's head on the sidewalk, by the way. I would imagine he wasn't from the plane, probably like on the ground or I saw a man's head, severed head on the floor, and they were all filming it. The Indians were.
You know, that's crazy, that they want to take a chance to make a photo op. And the one thing about that plane crash, too, is there was one survivor. The news are trying to say that he jumped out right at the last minute. I don't know if that was the case, and maybe he just kind of survived.
Are you sure? Are you sure, though? Because, I mean, I've seen it, too. But Indians do lie and scam, and like I could totally see somebody like just trying to like scam like an Indian, just lie about this, right?
Well,
could you see that?
I could see that. I get those scammers. They call me every day and want to tell me about my extended car warranty. So I mean that could be a possibility. I don't know if I believe the story that they're putting out. As you mentioned, it could be a scam. I just seen it all over the news. But who knows at this point, especially dealing with India.
Yeah. So. There was also a very high-ranking official that was on the plane as well, in the government. So who knows? Anyway, I'm gonna be completely honest, guys. I really do not like India. You know, I don't like India, but I do feel bad for their families. I feel like they're just like, it's just a country that is causing a lot of problems economically in the region. They're sending a lot of their people to our countries, particularly in Australia, which my family's Australian, as you know, and it's like quite difficult to process. You know, the way that they've changed our demographics and our culture in the West. And so I don't feel a lot of sympathy towards the nation itself, but I'm a human and I'm a father and I feel bad. People lost their mothers and their brothers and their parents. So, you know, there is a human element that I got to be careful. You know, it's kind of like if, you know, people that are pro-Israel don't really feel bad when people die in Gaza, you know, or things like that. It's a human thing. It's something we deal with and struggle with. But many of you may be Indian yourself, and you know, you're great American people. But you know, obviously you left India because, yeah, it's not a great place to live. And so, you know, I hope they can get their stuff together because it feels like they just have a lot of preventable deaths. I wouldn't travel there. I wouldn't want to go there. I encourage you guys all to look up YouTube First Class on India Airlines. It is insane. That's my report for today. As you can see, I'm having one of those days. My name is Elijah Schaffer. Thank you for watching another episode of the Gateway Pundits Weekend Review. Don't forget, if you want to join our mug club, you can get one of these amazing mugs on our website. All you're going to do is when you go to our website, you're going to go home. If you zoom out here, you'll see right here at the top, it says, please donate to the Gateway Pundit. And when you click on that, you can donate. Or what you can do is you can go get ad-free below it and not just donate. You can get a mug by subscribing to Gateway Pundit. It's only $79.99 a year. So that's really cool. You know, we should probably start, I need to talk to them. We should probably start adding some, I'm going to talk to them, see if we should like add in like some extra like story or two and then just put it behind the paywall, or like maybe you start doing bonus content behind the paywall to start, you know, to get your foot in the door. You know what I mean? Like, if that's a good way to start. You know, hey, I'll just do some extra content for the paid viewers because we care about you guys. We want to get you guys more content. And that's a good idea, right? We should do some more stuff for them.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. You know, Gateway Pundit has a large following of loyal people who are just there to help support and, you know, get the movement going. Make sure that they have a news organization that is not biased, just always transparent and sharing the truth. So a little extra content, I think, would be great. You know, I would love to help out with that as much as possible. And yeah, if, you know, I would say check out the website, make sure you support Gateway Pundit. Unfortunately, you know, they can't do it without you, but together we can make sure that the organization grows and we're able to help just share the truth to everybody around.
Amen. Have a great rest of the week as always. We'll see you tomorrow, and may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.